Hi, friends. My name is Michelle Fondin, and I'm the author of Help! I Think My Loved One is an Alcoholic, a survival guide for lovers, family, and friends. I'm so excited because my book actually just recently came out on Audible, so you can pick up this book on the audio. It's unabridged on audible.com, and you can also get it via Kindle now as of today. So the holidays are coming up. And that can, I'm sure, give you some mixed feelings with your alcoholic loved one, especially if you have to spend the holidays with your alcoholic loved one. And remember, we're not talking about any particular relationship. We're talking about an alcoholic spouse, a mom, dad, sister, brother, an adult child. It could be best friend. It could be boyfriend, girlfriend. As you know throughout the years that spending time with your alcoholic loved one throughout the holidays can really bring about a whole host of stressful feelings. And the reason for this, I don't know about you, but in my experience with my alcoholic loved one, is that when the holidays were coming, my alcoholic loved one looked at that as an occasion to drink even more than he did on a normal basis. He always looked forward to the holidays, his birthday, St. Patrick's Day, Super Bowl day, any time that he could have an occasion to go out of control and drink even more, he did. And he prepared for this in his head, and he would say things like, oh, I can't wait for this holiday to come up, and I'm just going to relax and enjoy myself. Well, in the back of my mind, I knew what relax and enjoy himself actually meant. It didn't mean anything pretty. And so I found myself in those situations even negotiating with him. So for example, when my family was coming in town, I would say to him, if you're going to be around my family, could you make sure that you don't drink prior to seeing my family so that you're in a decent state in order to spend some time with them and enjoy their company without having alcohol in your body? And in the beginning, he would get angry, but then after a while, he would say to me, sure, I can do that. But one thing you need to remember about alcoholics making promises is that they don't follow through with their promises when it comes to alcohol and drugs. And okay, it's not that they don't have good intentions. They want to follow through. It's just that they can't follow through. So it's good to distinguish those two bits. It's not that they have it in their heads, oh, I'm going to get back at him or her. I'm going to do this just to annoy him or her. I'm not going to follow through. In their minds, because the way their minds work is very differently from the way yours or mine mind works, in their heads, they really think that they're going to do it. They think they're going to follow through on promises. And then that day comes, and the thought of abstaining from alcohol until 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon is too much for them to bear. And so what happened to me is that my alcoholic loved one would show up at the house, and my mom would be there, my sister would be there, or my children would be there, and he had had a few drinks, which I could tell he had had a few drinks. But to the observer that didn't know him, they wouldn't necessarily see it right away. But the behavior was there. The behavior was a little bit erratic. The behavior was a little too cheeky, maybe. And the behavior was one which, with my alcoholic loved one, would make him actually fall asleep really early in the day. So he would down a whole lot of drinks, and come 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he would just fall asleep and disappear. And everyone would wonder what had happened to him. And so that in and of itself was really embarrassing. When it comes to your alcoholic loved one, let me just tell you what I did wrong in the beginning. I was wrong to think that he could make promises about his drinking and follow through. Okay? Alcoholics are alcoholics by compulsion and not by choice. So their compulsion to drink is omnipresent. It's always there. And so they're never going to be able to make a promise to you about their drinking and actually follow through. So if it's to control or reduce the drinking or switch to another beverage of choice, all of these things are just negotiations that ultimately do not last, and you're setting yourself up for disappointment if you think that he or she is going to follow through, because that's simply not true. It will never happen. I am living proof of this, that for years with my alcoholic loved one, I was convinced that this time would be different than the last time. And lo and behold, it never ever was. It was always exactly the same, because I didn't understand the compulsion to drink. When we were talking in those moments of sobriety, I was under the impression that he was being completely honest with me. I was under the impression that he was motivated to do something different, to make that change, to not drink so that he could be coherent in front of my parents or my sister. But it never occurred. It just never happened. And so time and time again, I found myself disappointed. And the second thing is you trying to control the drinking. So for me, I was under the impression if I just said, hey, while you're here, if you could only have one, or if we go to this party, if you could only have one, well, that's me trying to control somebody else's behavior. That's me trying to control somebody else's drinking. And that really doesn't work. Step 1 in the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and Al-Anon is, I am powerless over alcohol and my life has become unmanageable. And so realizing that you're powerless is realizing that you don't have control over it. You don't have control over the alcohol, and you don't have control over somebody else's drinking. You just don't. So good to just admit that to yourself, that, okay, in light of the fact that I can't control somebody else's drinking, in light of the fact that I can't control somebody else's behavior, it's the holidays. I don't want to ruin my holidays. What can I do? So let's just look now at exactly what you can do to survive the relationship with your alcoholic loved one throughout this holiday season. The first thing you can do when you have an event to go to in which your alcoholic loved one will be in attendance with you. So if you're dependent on taking the alcoholic loved one with you to an event, then I suggest you have a couple of options to get home. So you never know what is going to happen when your alcoholic loved one is at a party or an occasion that involves drinking. So since you're not certain of what that outcome might be, then you need to take care of yourself. And the only way you can take care of yourself is knowing how you're going to get home. If you came in a car with your alcoholic loved one and it's your car, you're the one who drove, it is in your right to take the car keys, take the car, and go home when you're ready. If your alcoholic loved one doesn't want to come with you, then that's his or her choice. Remember, we're speaking about adults here. So adults that are over the age of 18, that is an adult in the US, but adults over the age of 18, they can make their own choices. It's not your problem, it's not your concern, it's not your burden to decide what happens with your alcoholic loved one when you're out in public. That's his or her choice. Okay? I know it's going to seem counterintuitive in the beginning. It's going to seem cold and heartless in the beginning, but that's the truth. The truth is you can't control anybody else's behavior. So the truth is you need to take care of yourself. Now, if you don't have control over that, meaning that you don't have the car, or it's your alcoholic loved one's car, or you took a cab over, or someone else drove you over, you can still have a plan to get home. You can call an Uber, or you can call Lyft, you can call a cab. Just have an alternative way that you can get out of a situation that you don't want to be in anymore. Okay? So that's going to make you happier in the end. It's going to make you feel more fulfilled in the end. It's going to make you have a more pleasant time in the end, knowing that you don't have to worry about your alcoholic loved one at this event. Now, the next thing that we often worry about with alcoholic loved ones is, what if you've planned an event? It could be a family event, a work event. It could be an outing to the ballet or an outing to the theater, for example. And you've planned this evening for weeks, maybe months. You're really excited about going to this event. And then a couple days before the event, it hits you like it hits you every single time. And you start to fret and you start to worry. You're like, oh my gosh, is he going to be drunk again? Or is she just going to be hitting the bottle early in the day and she's going to be passed out and she's not going to be be able to come with me to this event? Okay, there's something very clever you can actually do here. If you have plans with your alcoholic loved one for this special event, go ahead at the same time in your head and make alternative plans. So, you could make alternative plans such as having a friend or a family member on call if your alcoholic loved one is passed out or is too drunk to go to the event. And so that you can call up that friend or family member and say, hey, I have that extra ticket, let's go to the ballet together, or let's go to my work party together, I'd love to bring you along. So that is the other option, so you don't feel like you're stuck because your alcoholic loved one is drunk and out of control or passed out. The other thing you could do is just say to yourself, hey, I'm going to go alone. If he or she is not ready to go with me when it's time to go, I'm just going to go. No, you're not doing this out of spite. So remember, none of these actions that we are doing for self-care are out of spite. They're not out of spite. They're not out of anger. They're designed to take care of you. Okay, so you're doing this to take care of yourself. You're doing this to not get caught up in that cycle of craziness and the alcoholism throughout the holidays. The holidays are designed to be something enjoyable. They're designed to bring people together, to have social connection, to maybe celebrate a religious holiday. It's not about you getting in a frenzy because you're now having to take care of or worry about your alcoholic loved one. Now, the last scenario that I'm going to present to you is, what if you don't live with your alcoholic loved one? Again, this could be mom or dad. It could be your sister or brother. It could be your aunt or uncle. It could even be your boyfriend or girlfriend or best friend, or your adult children. So what if you are hosting a party at your own home, or you're hosting the holiday at your own house, and you're really nervous about having your alcoholic loved one over for this holiday celebration? There are many different things that you can do in this scenario. One, you could just not invite them. That is an option, you know. You can gently suggest or gently point out and say, as long as you are still drinking, I care about you. However, as long as you're still drinking, you're not welcome in my home. And that is completely justified. After all, it's your home, your rules. Okay? So that's one option. Another option, which some people opt to do, is to have a sober event, have an event where alcohol is not served. Now, the only problem with this having a sober event is that obviously other people might be upset about that. Some people are social drinkers that just drink on the holidays, so they might be upset if the event at your place happens to be a sober event. So that may or may not go off well. The second thing is, if your alcoholic gets wind of no alcohol being served at the party, he or she may opt out of the event altogether anyway. And the third scenario that may occur is that alcoholics like to pre-game it. Pre-gaming, as I mentioned in one of my other videos, pre-gaming is drinking a bunch of alcohol before going out to an event. So if you say, hey, we're not going to do alcohol this year at our party, we're just going to serve juice and punch or whatever, fancy bottled fizzy water, your alcoholic loved one who knows very well that he needs the alcohol, he's just going to pregame it, or he's just not going to show up. So maybe not inviting him all together or not inviting her all together might be the best solution in that case. Again, we're doing this to bring love and compassion to this disease, and that love and compassion has to start with you. You're not a victim in this. I've fallen into that trap so many times, being in this victim mindset, and really, I still do sometimes. Still, I fall into that pattern of that old behavior of, oh, why did this happen to me? And why does it have to be this way? And why can't he just listen and not drink this time? And so on. And it just goes on. And it's this self-defeating behavior and this self-defeating attitude. And so what we're really trying to do here is build up ourselves, build up our assertiveness, and build up our boundary setting and knowing what it is that we really want. And by knowing what you want, and by standing firm in your beliefs and by standing firm in your own self-worth, then your alcoholic loved one will respect you more. The alcoholic loved one will tend to fall deeper into his or her addiction, and that is the first step in him getting better. They're not going to get better when somebody else is complaining. They're not going to get better when somebody else is enabling. It's just not going to happen. Remember, this is a social disease. It's a family disease. It's a physical, chemical, and psychological and mental disease as well. But it also afflicts the family. It also afflicts the social relationships. So I'm wishing you very, very happy holidays. Enjoy yourself. Stand in your personal power. And I look forward to seeing you next time. God bless.